Okay, so this is going to be a video on doing Cerakoting, and this is what we're going to be Cerakoting. It's a grip safety for a 1911, and I already Cerakoted this piece, but I didn't quite follow exactly what the manufacturer recommends as far as doing it. So if you look really close at it there, you can kind of see that it's a little bit discolored. This is supposed to be the Savage stainless color, and we have the slide that I properly Cerakoted, and you can tell that this is a little bit darker, and there's also a little bit of a brown spot down here on the bottom of it. Might be kind of hard to see, but it's there. And I just didn't want to have that on the first gun that I've done this to. And at first I thought, well, it's not really that bad, and it really only kind of shows there, but I figured if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it right, and it's a small piece, so it'll be quick to redo. So, I'm going to show you the process on Cerakoting anything, pretty much, but this is just a small piece to make this video go quicker. Alright, so here's step 1 in Cerakoting. You have to completely degrease the entire gun, or in this case, the part that you're going to be Cerakoting, and it has to be a non-water-based degreaser, so acetone, brake clean, something like that. It can't be, simple green or power purple or other stuff like that. That's a good degreaser on its own, but it leaves a film, and that little film on the metal will prevent the Cerakote from properly bonding to it. So the first step is just pretty much soak it for 10 to 15 minutes. I usually go a little bit longer than that, to around 20, just to make sure that it gets everything off of it. And when you first put it in there, you can touch it with your bare hands, but after it's been degreased for that 10 to, in my case, 20 minutes, don't touch it with your bare hands at all, because the bare oils on your hands will just completely screw up what you just spent 20 minutes doing. So what I do is I took a small little shoebox, pretty much, that I got for, I think, $1 on a clearance sale at Rite Aid, and I just put probably about a cup of acetone in there, and because this is a small piece, I can get away with that. If this was a bigger piece, like a full frame of a gun, I would have it just horizontal on the table, and it'd be filled up to where the top of the gun is, because you have to completely soak it. You can't just spray it and call it good. It has to completely soak. Then, after that, you'd want to have some kind of a jig or a wire or something like that to hang it on. And what I'd have is a little spray box over here with wires dangling off of it. And I just put it on top of there, put a piece of scrap metal that I have around the shop here somewhere on top of it, and then that's just where I hang it. And after you degrease it, you have to hang it just to make sure that it air dries, and while you're doing that, you also have to put it in the oven at 250 degrees for about a half hour, just to make sure that all the oil is out of it. And I didn't do that the first time because I thought, oh, it's just the grip safety, there's probably no oil on it anyway, and that's what caused my coating to screw up and have that weird little kind of brown ghost mark on the bottom of it. So you want to make sure that when you have directions from the manufacturer, you actually follow those directions, and if I did that, then I wouldn't have had this issue with the coating, and it would have been fine on the first round. But now I have to go back, I have to recoat everything. Well, not everything, I have to recoat this one part, luckily, but I had to recoat the slide too, because it had that same problem, only it was a lot worse. And when I looked at this, I didn't really see it on there that bad until I re-Cerakoted the slide properly, and then you could really see it. So, and I also coated the hammer, but the hammer wasn't as bad as this or the slide, and it's also not really something that you see that much either, so I figured the hammer would be okay. But I'm just not comfortable with the grip safety and the slide looking like crap, so I am redoing this. Other stuff that you're going to need when you're doing Cerakoting is, other than the acetone for degreasing, some kind of parts holder to soak your parts in and also to clean up with after you're done. And I'll show that process too. You're also going to need the Cerakote itself. In this case, it's the Stavage Stainless coloration. And a N95 particulate mask, because you can see all that stuff from Cerakoting yesterday. And that is what you don't want to be breathing in, and that's what this mask filters out, which is always good to be breathing clean air. And you're going to need powder-free latex gloves. In this case, they're diamond grips. An HVLP spray gun. Wire for hanging and masking off. You'll need the masking tape. A spray bottle. With this, I pretty much use it for mixing the Cerakote because the graduated cylinder is good for getting exact measurements of it, but I don't really have anything I could use as a stir stick, so pretty much what I do is I make sure it's all measured out in the graduated cylinder. Then I just dump it into here and I shake it for about 2-3 minutes to make sure that everything's really well mixed together and cured. And this comes with the kit that you buy from Cerakote. In my case, it was the 6-color kit, along with the spray gun and 6 colors of Cerakote. You also get enough hardener for that too, and this is what comes in the kit. You get, in this case, it was the entire thing filled up, so you get a little over 2.5 ounces of hardener for the 6-color kit, and that'll be enough to harden everything that you have. And these I just got at Harbor Freight. I think they were like $2 for a pack of 3, and it's perfect for mixing up. You could use a solo cup or something like that, but there's some chemical in the Cerakote that just melts right through that. So if you're just doing a quick mix of it, that'll be fine, but don't expect to have the cup there afterward. This stuff is chemical resistant, so a good sprayer like this is definitely worth it. And as for the bigger stuff that you'll need to have an air compressor that can run a sandblasting booth, and you'll need the sandblasting booth, and what I'm using to blast these parts is 120 grit aluminum oxide, and that's what the manufacturer recommends. It has to be either 100 to 120 grit aluminum oxide or 100 to 120 grit garnet sand. And they recommend 80 psi for metal parts and around 40 psi for composite parts or plastic or polymer. So you could do this to wood, plastic, everything, but it's good to make sure that you do it at a lower psi when you're blasting those, because 80 psi on metal is no problem. 80 psi on plastic, you'd have significant damage to it, and so they make sure that you have a little bit lower psi for that. The spray gun runs around 20 to 25 up to 30. I usually spray around that 20 to 25 range, and it goes on really good. I was surprised by how well this spray gun works for the kind of cheap spray gun it is. You get this free with the kit, and at first I thought it wouldn't work very well, but once I actually tried it for a couple coatings, it works really well, and I can see why they recommend it. When you get stuff from Cerakote, I've seen a lot of complaints that their airbrush kits that you get are pretty cheap and usually don't work that well. And I thought, oh crap, I'm going to be in this situation. The same thing with Cerakote. I'd have to go out and I'd have to get a new spray kit and a whole bunch of other stuff. But no, this actually worked really well. I was surprised by it. So it's definitely a cheap Chinese sprayer, but it does work, and there is a reason that Cerakote recommends it. And you can also get the Iwata sprayer from them too, but that's $350, and this is free with a $200 kit. So I just figured I'd go with that, and if I get really, really good at it and I start making a lot of money doing Cerakoting, then I might go up to a little bit more expensive sprayer, but this works just fine. And you also get the hardener You get the glass graduated cylinder, and you get the colors too. And it's a really good deal. So this has been sitting for about 9 minutes since I already Cerakoted it before, and I know that it's gotten most of the gunk off of it. I'm just going to give it another minute. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into the oven, and then I'm going to let it kind of bake out all the oil that might still be in there. And then after that, I'll sandblast it and coat it. And you'll get to see that in a little bit here. But it's definitely going to look good once it's properly done. So again, so far, you have degreasing, hanging it, and masking it off. In this case, I'm not going to mask it off because it's a small part and it's not going to show very much. If it was something like the slide stop on a 1911, then I'd mask off the part that would go into the gun. And then after that, you put it in the oven, bake it for a half hour at 250 degrees to get all the oil off. And then after that is when you sandblast. So here we go. Alright, so there's the piece just hanging in the oven and getting all cleaned and degreased. And it has about another 6 minutes in there. And it's at 300 degrees instead of 250, just because that was what I preheated the oven to. But 300 degrees versus 250 won't do anything. You're actually supposed to... Well, there's a couple options when it comes to curing Cerakote. You can either cure it for 2 hours at 250 or 45 minutes at 300. So it's not above the recommended coating temperature or anything like that. So it's going to be fine. Just going to bake a little more oil out of there if there is anything left. And what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to take it to the acetone again and make sure that if there is any grease that came out of there, that it gets washed off before it gets sandblasted, because that could screw up the sandblasting, and we already have to blast off the old Cerakote, so making that as easy as possible would be a good thing. And so then just warm it up, blast it off, and then rehang it and respray it. That's all there is to this.